Welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance. Each Sunday, a last post service is conducted to honour the servicemen and women of the Australian Armed Forces who have defended Australia since Federation in 1901. Please be aware that this service will be filmed and live streamed to the internet. In line with current COVID-safe settings, please check in using the QR codes and maintain social distancing. The last post service will commence immediately and conclude with the lowering of the flags at 5 o'clock. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance's last post service. Each week we pause to remember the service and sacrifice of more than 400,000 Victorians who have served and who continue to serve our nation. My name is Graham Plumridge. I'm a Shrine trustee. Today we particularly remember the Battle of Pearl Ridge, fought during the Second World War. I'm privileged to be joined by Chris Hearn, the son of Keith Hearn. Keith is a veteran of the Second World War, who can't be here today for COVID-related reasons with his accommodation. Today, Chris will lay a wreath on behalf of his father. Thanks, Chris, for joining us today. The Shrine of Remembrance is held in care by the Shrine trustees on behalf of all Victorians. We recognise and embrace the diversity of our community and acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we honour Australian servicemen and women. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. The Shrine of Remembrance was dedicated in 1934 to commemorate the 114,000 Victorians who enlisted in the First World War. 89,100 of those who deployed overseas and 19,000 of whom made the supreme sacrifice. Our purpose now is to honour the service and sacrifice of all Victorians and Australians who have served in war, in conflict, in peacekeeping and peacemaking. We warmly welcome all veterans and members of the Australian Defence Force and the families that love and support them. And to all of you, be you residents or visitors of Victoria, welcome. I'm pleased to introduce the Shrine Guard. The Shrine Guard has protected and provided ceremonial support to the Shrine since 1935. They wear a uniform similar to that of the Australian Light Horse during the First World War, a legacy of those first Shrine Guard, all of whom were veterans of that war. Shrine Guard, take post. No, I'm not. We will commence our service with the singing of the Australian National Anthem. If you're able to, would you please stand and join in the singing of the anthem?
General salute,
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are
You can please be seated. Our lives of relative peace and freedom have been hard won by the men and women of the Australian Defence Force, whose actions founded and now foster what is known as the Anzac Spirit. They have protected our national values and way of life for more than 100 years. We honour their love of country, their sense of duty and their courage in difficult times. Last week marked the 77 years since the 25th Battalion fought the Battle of Pearl Ridge. Pearl Ridge was an important strategic position located roughly in the centre of Bougainville Island. The Japanese had held it since 1942. But the Australians knew capturing the ridge would be a vital step in pushing the Japanese off Bougainville. In the morning of the 30th December 1944, 800 men of the 25th Battalion launched a four-pronged attack against what they thought was a force of only about 90 Japanese soldiers. Unknown to them, Pearl Ridge had been reinforced and there was closer to a battalion of Japanese forces ready to defend. Supported by artillery and machine gun fire, the 25th pushed forward through rough terrain. Held up on the right, they were forced to dig in overnight. Despite a strong Japanese counterattack during the night, they resumed early on the 31st and by that afternoon had swept the Japanese from the ridge. The battle cost the 25th Battalion 10 men killed and 25 wounded. The capture of Pearl Ridge gave the Australians commanding views of the entire island and isolated pockets of Japanese troops. It also, importantly, boosted morale. At Pearl Ridge, the recently trained 25th Battalion came up against a force roughly the same size with far more combat experience and won. Chris Hearn joins us today, the son of a veteran of the Second World War. His father, Keith, served in the 2nd 31st Australian Infantry Battalion during the Second World War. Keith was wounded in action at Balikpapan on Borneo, and today he was one of only 2 men left of the 2nd 31st Battalion. Since the Second World War, Keith has remained active in the RSL and was president of the joint 2nd 25th and 2nd 31st Battalion Association for more years than he can remember. Hence the amalgamation of the 2nd 25th and why we are talking about it today. Keith intended to be here today to lay the wreath himself, but unfortunately he is unable to join us, as I mentioned. His son Chris will instead place the wreath at the shrine's eternal flame on his father's behalf. The wreath honours the 10 men of the 25th Battalion killed at Pearl Ridge and all those who served in the Second World War. Shrine Guard, take post.
I will turn to the right. Head. Forward. Quick. March.
The wreath will now be laid at the eternal flame in a symbolic act of remembrance. The ode will now be recited, followed by the sounding of the last post. The ode is the fourth verse of Lawrence Binion's poem, For the Fallen. The last post is a traditional military bugle call marking the end of the day and commemorating all those killed in war. Please stand, and I encourage you to participate by repeating the phrases, "We will remember them," and "Lest we forget."
They went with the songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Thank you. Please be seated. In the concluding part of our service, the Shrine Guard will lower the flags while the bugle call retreat is sounded. Today, we fly the Australian flag, the Victorian state flag, and the Royal Australian Air Force flag. Shrine Guard, take post. The flags will now be lowered. The shrine belongs to all Victorians. It is a symbol of their love and enduring commitment, representing the suffering and loss of a nation and the sacrifice of those who have served in the face of conflict and carry its scars. Today you have joined us in giving remembrance. On behalf of the Shrine Trustees, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Chris Hearn as well as his family for being here. And I'd also like to thank our Piper, Stuart Wallace, and the Shrine Guard. The Shrine Guard and members of the ceremonial party are available following the service if you would like to meet them and or take some photographs. Many of you have been given a poppy. You are welcome to come forward at the end of the service and place your personal floral tribute with the wreath at the eternal flame. That concludes this afternoon's last post service. Thank you for visiting Victoria's Shrine of Remembrance. I invite you to continue your peaceful reflection and wish you a good afternoon. Shrine Guard, fall out.